My great grandma Nellie had big boobs, and I think that's probably where I get it from.
Yeah, right?
But now that's what we call boobs is Nellies.
Really?
Yeah, they're Nellies. They're not
That's
boobs.
what she went down in history for.
Yeah. Good old great grandma Nellie.
Hannah, how's your Nellies?
Honey, that's for a later conversation.
That's for our Rated X podcast.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow.
Hello, Wanderers. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Jess.
And this is Wicked Wanderings.
Hello, Jess.
Hello, Hannah.
Are you ready?
Born ready. I love me some mental health.
Ready to talk about Nellie? Thought that would rhyme, but that doesn't really rhyme.
Your voice is very sultry. Yes, I do, Hannah. Please talk about Nellie. Please talk about
I've
Nellie.
been listening to too many audiobooks with Joe Arden, so
Oh, my.
if you
Joe
know,
Arden.
you know.
Sigh.
So I am taking a break from the book Mad in America because I found this book on TikTok, of course, and it is called 10 Days in the Madhouse. And it's all about this woman called Nellie Bly and her story, and she wrote it. And it's a very short book, very, very short, but it's her article.
Also, can I just say that I am so happy that you went down a little rabbit hole,
I did.
so I'm not the only one.
I couldn't pass
It gives
it
me
up.
joy.
I couldn't pass it up
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think it's a well-known book or
No.
story. And she's very inspiring.
Oh, inspiring.
Yes,
Okay.
because she was a woman in 1887, right? And she was a investigator journalist from the World newspaper, and they asked her to go undercover to Bellevue Hospital in New York.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she was like ahead of her time, really,
Yes.
for women.
Yes, I
Mhm.
think so. First, I just want to say how fucking amazing it is that a woman, not even the turn of the century, was asked to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Maybe it was because she would be believable as insane.
And I also bring that up because it's like, if this was a man,
Yeah.
would he have such an easy time, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Nellie Bly. Nellie Bly was approached to do this piece by her superiors. She then asked the obvious question of, how will you get me out? Right?
Which is a very good question.
right? You're not going to leave me there, right? And the response she got was, I do not know, but we will get you out if we have to. And we'll tell you who you are and for what purpose you feigned insanity. Just only get in. So I was dropped. Get in, we'll get you out.
Wow. Very trusting, Miss Nellie
Yes,
Bly.
I thought so too. And Nellie began to practice being crazy. She watched herself in the mirror and the mannerisms she had to make sure she was playing the part right. Which I was like, I tried to imagine that.
Yeah.
In this part of the book, she did make the point that when she was in the asylum, she did act normal. So she acted all crazy to get in. And then when she got in, she acted normal and she was still left in there. And people said she was crazy, which I think that was
Really?
Which I thought was an interesting point to make. So I will be quoting from the book. Again, it's called 10 Days in the Madhouse by Nellie Bly. It's a really, really short book, but I was really inspired by the reading. I think it's totally worth to pick up, especially if you have a reading goal. And you want something that's nonfiction, it's a nice short book to reach your reading goal.
I have 2 more books to reach my 50 book goal for the year.
I'm so proud of you.
That's why I've been busting out the audiobooks. Anyway, as you were.
So I will be quoting from the book, but I will let you know when I do quote. So here I am going to quote.
Sorry.
I know, that was a lot of like...
I'm going to quote, and here I quote. I love you, Hannah.
It was a long week at work, guys. Words, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but here let me say one thing. From the moment I entered the insane ward on the island, I made no attempt to keep up the assumed role of insanity. I talked and acted just as I do in ordinary life. Yet strange to say, the more sanely I talked and acted, the crazier I was thought to be by all, except one physician whose kindness and gentle ways I shall not soon forget. Just thought that was really interesting.
So she acted normal and was assumed that she was crazy
Yep.
because she was acting normal.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep. She knew she would have to leave her home behind, so she decided to enter a temporary home for single working women. So she left her home behind. She found a house that took in women that would pay to room and board there, basically. So she made herself look like she was, quote, dreaming and, quote, far off expressions, like kind of just like dazing out. She was told by the woman in charge of the home that she would have to share a room, which she was excited for because that person could report back of her being crazy. To get other people to think she was crazy, she'd call other women in the home crazy. So she'd be like, that woman's crazy, that woman's crazy, and kept saying how sad she was during meal times and social hours. The other women began to be scared of her. Okay, I kind of get that. One woman, a Mrs. Kane, said she would bunk with her and showed Nellie kindness. So she was supposed to bunk with this other woman, but they were so petrified of her. They're like, I don't want to sleep with her. Like, she's scaring me. So this woman, Mrs. Kane, was just very nice and gentle. She's like, I'm just going to show this girl kindness, which in the end, she felt really bad afterwards that Mrs. Kane had to deal with her like this because the woman was trying to be nice. And Nellie's like, oh my gosh, I have a job to do. So this poor woman is dealing with this. Nellie stayed up all night staring at the wall to cause unease in the room and the house. Nellie says that
she totally went with it,
yes,
didn't she?
She did. Nellie says that while some women were afraid of her, others would tease her and poke at her with questions and statements to get her riled up. One thought I had during this part of the book, which is kind of what you brought up, Jess, was would a man have had such an easy time being labeled as crazy?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? In the morning, the women of the house decided to have the police called, and Nellie was brought before a judge that then made the final judgment she would be heading to Bellevue. She then was checked by doctors who then checked her tongue, checked her pulse and heart, and her pupils. One of the doctors was convinced she was using belladonna.
Really?
Yes.
Did they check her for a teat, though?
No teat. No,
That's
they rather
unfortunate.
check her tongue, which I'm not following the tongue thing. I kind of understand the pupils because you can see if someone's on drugs, I guess, and the pulse and heart rate, but the tongue thing I wasn't sure about. She met other women that were being sent to Bellevue, and one woman said she was sick from overwork. I think I fall into the category.
I was going to say, like, a lot of women do.
The nurses tried taking money from her because they said that others would take it from them anyway, so you might as well just give it to me. Nellie had several doctors look at her, and one even asked if she was a woman of the town.
So like a hoochie.
Yeah.
A prostitute.
Yeah. Nellie said, quote, I felt sure now that no doctor could tell whether people were insane or not, so long as the case was not violent. Terrible sleeping conditions. Food was cold and inadequate, and the heat could not be turned on until October, which I'm thinking like, oh, that's fine. But I'm thinking of the type of buildings they had. They probably had no insulation, and they are on an island in the middle of Manhattan. So it must have been with the sea and everything. It must have been pretty cold. One girl stated she was there for nervous debility. And in my research, this could be caused by stress and overeducation in the middle class. Yeah.
So send me to a mental asylum because, yes.
Nellie was then put on a boat to Blackwell's Island with the other women. Nellie said, in comparison, how much easier would it be to walk to the gallows than to this tomb of living horrors? That was deep.
Yeah.
Deep, Nellie. This woman is deep. Nellie observed a woman that did not speak English and could not plead her case of sanity. Nellie says, and I'm going to quote from the book, but here was a woman taken without her own consent from the free world to an asylum and there given no chance to prove her sanity, confined most probably for life behind asylum bars, without even being told in her language the why and wherefore. Compare this with a criminal who was given every chance to prove his innocence. Who would not rather be a murderer and take the chance for life than be declared insane without hope of escape?
Can you imagine that happening to you? Like going to America thinking you're going to get a new life.
Yep.
And then you get put in that shitty place.
Right.
And you have no control. Oh my God.
And there was actually another woman in the book that she brought up that, again, didn't speak much English. And I guess she came to the asylum because she liked men too much. And so the nurses would pick and prod at her and be like, do you want that doctor? Do you like that doctor? And she would just say yes, because I think in her head, she was like, yeah, he's a nice man. And they're like, well, you can't have him. Like they just would taunt her and she'd be like, I don't know what's going on. So I just think it's so cruel. So cruel. And with that, we're going to take a short break.
Thank you, Lynn from Springfield.
Thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Courtney from Palmer.
Amber from Idaho.
and Heather from New Jersey, and Chelsea from Utah.
Thank you, everybody. And if you want to donate, just go to wickedwanderingspodcast.com and help us, keep doing this thing where we're talking to mics and
Do this
say
thing.
fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers. A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons, Lynn from Massachusetts, Heather from New Jersey, Courtney from Massachusetts, and Chelsea from Utah, for their generous monthly contributions. Their support fuels the engine of our investigative endeavors here at Wicked Wanderings.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contribution sustains our commitment to delivering high-quality content.
Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of dedicated patrons like Lynn, Heather, Courtney, and Chelsea. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures you are at the forefront of intriguing discoveries.
Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime. And now back to the show. Witchcraft. Okay. Back we go.
Cocaine!
Cocaine. Meals were every man for themselves. One woman stole from others and wolfed down their portions. Showers were gang style, where women had no dignity but were treated like cattle. The nurses would scrub roughly, and even the women that were sick got ice cold baths and shown no compassion. They were told they were receiving charity and should be grateful for what they got. They shared towels as well, so if any woman had blemishes or something worse, it was shared through open sores on the face or elsewhere, probably.
Gross.
They were given walks around the grounds, but some group of women were chained together and not given freedom to roam.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, they're on an island, so there's not really many places you can go, right?
They just wanted to be dicks.
Yep.
Douche canoes.
I'm going to quote, I asked some of them to tell how they were suffering from the cold and insufficiency of clothing, but they replied that the nurses would beat them if they were told. So they knew they couldn't talk about anything.
Were the nurses women?
Yes.
So these women were just being bitches to these supposed mentally... Ugh.
And Nellie says, as I passed a low pavilion where a crowd of helpless lunatics were confined, I read a motto on the wall, which said, while I live, I hope. The absurdity of it struck me forcibly. I would have liked to put above the gates that open to the asylum, he who enters here leaveth hope behind.
That's depressing.
I just feel like Nellie got it, man.
Nellies usually do.
Yes. So another part to this is that she said to take a perfectly sane and healthy woman, shut her up and make her sit from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. on straight back benches. Do not allow her to talk or move during these hours. Give her no reading and let her know nothing of the world or its doings. Give her bad food and harsh treatment and see how long it will take to make her insane. 2 months would make her a mental and physical wreck.
I mean, a day for me.
Yeah, seriously, right? No books?
Maybe two, right? No books?
Nellie watched as staff treated these women like a sideshow entertainment. She said, at this I saw Miss Group. First of all, her name's Miss Group. Sit down on her.
She sounds like a bitch.
I know, right? Sit down on this woman and run her cold hands over the woman's face. Old woman, by the way. And down inside the neck of her dress. At the old woman's cry, she laughed savagely, as did the other nurses, and repeated her cruel action. That day, the old woman was carried away to another ward. Like, what the fuck?
I think that there is a special place in hell for those nurses.
Seriously. This is just...
And I hope that's where they all are. Getting that shit done to them.
Fucking Putnams.
Fucking Putnams. They're probably descendants.
Probably.
Sounds like the Puritan thing to do, just saying.
And again, with the treatment of the elderly, she talks about this woman, Miss Grady, who said, shut up, you hussy, said Miss Grady as she caught the woman by her gray hair and dragged her shrieking and pleading from the room. She was also taken to the closet and her cries grew lower and then ceased. The nurse returned to the room and Miss Grady remarked that she had settled the old fool for a while. I told some of the physicians of the occurrence, but they did not pay any attention to it.
Of course they didn't.
During this, Nellie was trying to gather as much information as she could. She was not sleeping as the nurses wanted, so they wanted to give her a sedative. She would
Cocaine!
Right.
Sorry.
She would not take it, so they brought the doctor. She would not take it for the doctor, so he threatened her with the needle. She decided swallowing was better than a needle because she could still get rid of it by swallowing by throwing up.
Ew.
No thought on that? Great, let's move on.
Well, I was going to make a swallowing comment, but I decided not to. So,
Another first-hand account was of a woman named Mrs. Cotter, and she said, "The remembrance of that is enough to make me mad. For crying, the nurses beat me with a broom handle and jumped on me, injuring me internally so that I shall never get over it. Then they tied my hands and feet and throwing a sheet over my head, twisted it tightly around my throat so I could not scream, and thus put me in a bathtub filled with cold water. They held me under until I gave up every hope and became senseless. At other times, they took hold of my ears and beat my head on the floor and against the wall.
that's horrible.
Then they pulled out my hair by the roots so they will never grow in again." Mrs. Cotter here showed me proof of her story, the dent in the back of her head and the bare spots where the hair had been taken out by the handful.
Like I said, special place in hell just for these nurses.
This is like a different kind of heavy.
Yeah.
So for some of the people, they injected so much morphine and chloral that the patients are made crazy. And she says, "I have seen the patients wild for water from the effect of the drugs, and the nurses will refuse it to them. I have heard women beg for a whole night for one drop and was not given them. I myself cried for water until my mouth was so parched and dry that I could not speak." Which makes sense because a lot of those pills do make you extremely dehydrated. Women got in trouble for speaking their grievances to the doctors that would come by about how they were staying or the state of the accommodations. The nurses would give them shit afterwards. The women were instructed to remove all clothing, fold it, and place it before their door and then enter their room where they would sleep, which I don't understand why they had to sleep naked. Right?
Yeah. Sorry. So many thoughts were going
That's
on
all right.
in my head
That's
trying to
okay.
figure out like what nasty person made that rule
Mm-hmm.
and what
Yep.
angers me.
Nellie did only 10 days at Blackwell, but I'm sure it felt like an eternity.
Oh, I'm sure.
She said the insane asylum on Blackwell's Island is a human rat trap. It is easy to get in, but once there is, it is impossible to get out. I had intended to have myself committed to the violent wards, which were the lodge and retreat, but when I got the testimony of 2 sane women and could give it, I decided not to risk my health and hair, so I did not get violent. Sorry, I thought.
No. Well, I have a question, but I feel like you're going there.
Nellie was brought before a jury to state her sanity, who she was, and why she did it. Because of this, a sequence of events took place. They went back to Blackwell Island without informing anyone they were coming. Somehow they did find out an hour prior to the arrival and were met by some men in power. So like there was a doctor and I think a lawyer, she said, that ended up showing up. They admitted the food was not great. They could not speak to how often the water was changed for baths and how they needed better doctors that were actually competent. When touring the kitchen, salt was seen in barrels and the kitchen was actually clean. So they had time to make it look nicer. The disturbing part was most of the women she met and became close to, though she heard all their stories, were gone. They were either transferred, sick and dying of paralysis, or with family, supposedly. It is really hard for me to believe this and how convenient all of this is. But I will say that Nellie did something brave for a person of her time and being a woman at that.
So how did she get out? Did
They
she
got
just...
her.
Oh,
Yeah.
they went in and got her.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in the book, well, really, it's her newspaper article, but she stated that she was told by, it was either the nurses or the doctors, that her people came to pick her up, and then she just had to go before a jury and say, okay, no, really, my name is Nellie Bly, since she gave a pseudonym, and she said, this is why I did it, and that's why the jury is like, well, we want to go and look at this place now, and then went over there.
Whoever that mole was that warned them
I know.
needs to be with those nurses in hell.
And she did want the jury to see these women that were living in these conditions. And they got to talk to a couple of them. But all of a sudden, all these women on the ward are gone.
Conveniently.
Conveniently.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sketchy. So I'm curious how this changed Nellie afterwards. Because you can't go through something like that and not be changed.
Yeah, for sure.
Because yes, it was a project. Yes, she was undercover, but you think about even cops that go undercover.
Yeah.
They experience very traumatizing things. So I can't imagine how it affected
Like
her
her
in her
lasting
life.
effects. Did
Right.
it say anything in a no?
No, there's one more part I have to read, but like the end of her story is done, but it's all about I think it's miscellaneous articles that she wrote.
She wrote.
Yeah, but they have pictures of her in here from like 1888 to 1922. It was very, very interesting.
Hmm.
I really gave her props for what she did.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done that.
So I know it was a shorter episode, but
No, it's very
I feel like we
interesting.
had to talk about Nellie.
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing. Every time I hear Nellie. My great grandma Nellie. But yeah, thanks. I've never heard of it. It sounds vaguely familiar,
Yeah.
but I don't think I don't know. But it was a really good story. I don't think I could have done it. So way to go,
God,
Nellie.
no. And then I tried looking up Blackwell Island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's there anymore. Even the building, because
Good.
I could be wrong, but I looked it up and I couldn't find anything because I was like, ooh, next time I go to Manhattan, I would love to go over to see if
Yeah.
it's still there, but I don't think it's there anymore.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, not sad.
Yes.
That
But
building should be destroyed.
Yes.
Ew.
So
That just makes me angry. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So yeah, I'll probably have one more episode for mental health. And then, I don't know, take it from there. I feel like it's just an ever morphing podcast. It's just,
We're winging it.
yeah, we're winging
We're
it.
pulling all of this out of our ass.
I would like to do like a poll or something to see what people's favorite episode is.
That would be. I mean, we
I don't know,
could
just
just
kinda
look at the
curious.
views.
Yeah, well, I guess that's true.
So, yes, Rob.
I was going to say, people can email us at wickedwanderingspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us and let us know which episode is your favorite.
And also, if you have any recommendations for episodes,
Yes, please.
Yes, I was actually thinking about that recently.
mm-hmm.
If you have a case that you want us to do a story of, an episode of, email us
Yeah,
and let us know. wickedwanderingspodcast@gmail.com.
because we'd love to do them.
Yes, we would.
I have had a few. I mean, obviously, the one we just recorded was
And we have one coming up that was semi-suggested through your family, right?
Yeah, our next episode will be a very personal story.
Yeah.
And it will be our first remote.
Yes, long distance.
I'm
Yep.
really sad because you're not going to be in the room.
I know. I'm gonna have to swear in front of my sister, even though she listens. She listens to the podcast, anyways, which is awesome. My sister Heather.
Which Heather?
Yeah, she's the oldest.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, thanks, y'all.
Have a most wonderful Christmas, everybody, to
Yes.
our wanderers.
Merry Christmas. If you celebrate it, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
If not, I hope you enjoy the day off if you can.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And we did not need this sing-along. Love you, mean it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. This show wouldn't be possible without our amazing producer and editor, Rob Fitzpatrick, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you the best content.
And a special thanks to Taiga Soundprod for providing the captivating intro music. Cinematic Intro 24.
And of course, we can't forget the hauntingly beautiful outro music, Rhino's Theme, composed by Kevin MacLeod.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platforms, like Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Your feedback means the world to us.
Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes glimpses, updates, and more thrilling content. You can find us at Wicked Wanderings Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening and being part of our Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Stay curious,
Keep exploring.
and always remember to keep on wandering.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons, Lynn from Massachusetts, Heather from New Jersey, Courtney from Massachusetts, and Chelsea from Utah, for their generous monthly contributions. Their support fuels the engine of our investigative endeavors here at Wicked Wanderings.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contribution sustains our commitment to delivering high-quality content.
Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of dedicated patrons like Lynn, Heather, Courtney, and Chelsea. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures you are at the forefront of intriguing discoveries.
Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime.